All right, at the Kodiak Life Protection Systems Combatives Orange Belt test, we have another level of striking techniques that build on what you learn in the yellow belt test. In the yellow belt test, you learn jab, cross, hook, and uppercut, which are all closed hand techniques. Now we're going to learn 4 open hand techniques where you're going to use different parts of your hand. And if you open your hand like this, I'll show you very simply how they're going to work. We're going to use the outside thumb side of the hand is what you call the ridge hand. The other side, pinky side of the hand, is what we call the knife hand. The palm, of course, we call the palm heel. And then the pads of the fingers we call the spear hand. So, these can be thrown at various angles, but I'm going to do it just from my attacker reaching out for me. So if he reaches out for me, I can take my hand, I can throw a ridge hand strike to the side of his neck. My hands are here, I can just drive this side of my hand, don't have my thumb stuck out because I'll jam my thumb, I want my thumb tucked back away like that so that I'm hitting with this side of my hand right to the side of his neck. Now, I can do that with either hand. 1, 2. I can throw a knife hand. Reach across, knife hand just like that. Reach across, knife hand just like that. Now, I could also throw inverted versions of these techniques. If I pull down here, I could throw a knife hand like this. If I pull down here, I could throw a knife hand like this. Likewise, if I pull down here, I could throw a ridge hand like this. Or the same thing, I could throw a ridge hand like this. What's going to determine what I call the technique is what part of my hand makes contact. If it's the ridge hand, it's a ridge hand, whether it's inverted or straight. If it's a knife hand, whether it's here or here, it's still a knife hand. Now a palm strike, simply using the palm of the hand. A lot of people when they do a palm strike, they want to curl their fingers back really tight and tighten up the hand and throw a palm strike. In Kodiak Life Protection Systems, we don't do that. Instead, what we do is we relax the hand so that it molds to whatever it hits. If I'm throwing my palm strike at his jaw, I want it to mold around his jaw when it hits. Almost like a suction cup. Boom. If I'm throwing it at his chin, I want it to mold here. If I'm throwing it at his nose, I want it to mold around that. If I'm throwing it under the bridge of his eye, I want it to fit in there. So I'm going to relax my hand. I don't want to stick my thumbs or my fingers out. I pull them back a little bit, but I relax my hand so that when it hits, it actually molds to whatever it's hitting. And then I continue the force through, and that's where it gets the power. So the palm strike, boom, straight in and through. Finally, the spear hand strike. Spear hand is anywhere where I would use the pads of the fingers to attack. I would never use the tips of my fingers. The tips of my fingers hurt. If you've ever tried to push anything with the tips of your fingers, if you put pressure on the tips of your fingers, it's not comfortable. But you push something, you push with the pads of your fingers. Same here. The place where I would probably use my fingers is either in his eyes or in his throat area, right here above the sternum. I want to tip my fingers down slightly as I'm coming in. I don't want my fingers up like this because if they do get bent back, then it's going to cause me discomfort. If my fingers are bent slightly, if they get bent back, now they're not going as far back. There's a little bit of shock absorption there. So I bend my fingers slightly, I come into the top of the neck, and I spear into him backward, just like that. Same way to the eyes. My fingers are bent, and I spear into his eyes, just like that. So if he's grabbing me here, and I spear backwards. Or if he's grabbing me, I am here, and I spear backwards into his eyes. The spear hand, again, means that I'm using the tips of my fingers. Palm heel, I'm using the palm. The knife hand is the pinky side, the ridge hand is the thumb side. And that's the open hand strikes for Kodiak Life Protection Systems Orange Belt exam.